you for being here this morning. What we're going to discuss this morning is not intended in any way to be any sort of commentary regarding the most recent police action shooting, nor will we in any way discuss any substantive matter related to that investigation. Instead, what we have called this press conference to do is to explain once again the process and considerations involved, not only in this matter, but in any criminal investigation. First, let me make it clear that it is not only my decision that the video here will not be released, it is my responsibility to see that it is not released. Under the rules of professional conduct that govern all attorneys, any attorney, and specifically a prosecutor involved in an investigation or litigation is prohibited from releasing any substantive information that is not already in the public record. Not only is it our direct responsibility to do so, but a prosecutor is called upon to exercise reasonable care to make certain that police agencies and others who might have access to that information abide by the same restrictions. These are matters that we have discussed with IMPD on other occasions and again in this situation, and obviously IMPD understands the restrictions under which we operate. Secondly, without regard to those ethical considerations, we would not release this sort of information in an ongoing investigation in any matter, because it is necessary to maintain the integrity of any given investigation by making certain that if individuals come forward with information about an alleged crime, that they're doing so based upon firsthand knowledge and not based upon what they've seen or heard in the press. Let me give you an example. How many times in the course of the events leading up to the charges in the Richmond Hill explosion case did members of the press, and probably many of you here today, ask, do you have suspects in this case? Do you have a theory as how the explosion occurred? Well, clearly we had suspects in that case. Clearly the investigators had a theory about how the explosion occurred. But we were not going to say that, again, not only because of those ethical considerations, but because we wanted to make certain if individuals came forward, they did so with firsthand information. If we had said early on, as the investigators believed, that the explosion occurred because someone had removed the regulator from the house, because someone had removed the valve to the fireplace and set a timer on the microwave, how many individuals do you think would have come forward at that time to say, John Doe told me A, B, C, just exactly what they'd heard? Again, the integrity of the investigation requires that we maintain in confidence that information so that we are assured that individuals who come forward are doing so based upon what they have seen and heard. Thirdly, it is a little naive to believe that the release of limited information in any given case would somehow be conclusive. If there is to be a release of a video or photos, that clearly in most situations is not conclusive of what transpired. If we as the prosecutor working with our police investigators are to make a conclusion, it is done based upon every single bit of information, which would include video or photos, witness statements, and forensic evidence. And lastly, I want to make clear that the role of our office is merely to determine if a crime has occurred. It is not our position nor our responsibility to determine whether police procedures are appropriate or inappropriate, whether these situations could be handled differently. That falls to IMPD, and I'm confident that they will address it appropriately. But until that time, our role is merely to evaluate the facts and the law and make a determination if a crime has occurred. once we have completed our process, as we did in the Mac Long case, when those matters were presented to a grand jury, and our role was complete, when no indictment was returned, we deferred then to IMPD to utilize the video in any manner that they deemed appropriate. But until that time, I repeat again, it is not only solely my decision, it is my responsibility to make certain that substantive evidence is not released to the public until we have completed that process. With that, happy to take any questions.
If you've had a relationship with the local clergy, and some of them have spoken out saying that they wanted the video release, your reaction to that, and does this change your relationship with them?
I don't think that it changes the relationship in any way, and what we want to make clear today, because this has happened before, is to just reiterate that there are very significant considerations in terms of this request. And I understand their concern. I understand the public's concern. And that's precisely why we wanted to make clear that it is our responsibility to not release this information until the investigation and a decision has been completed. For those who would suggest that somehow that there's too close a relationship between our office and the police department, I would merely reiterate what all of you should know. And in a little over 5 years, we have prosecuted 55 police officers for various crimes. And so if there's anyone out there who would believe that we would not hold a police officer accountable if that officer commits a crime, then clearly they have not been paying attention.
So all police action shootings go to grand juries?
No. We have presented some. I believe leading up in the time that we've been in office, every single police action up until the Rod Bradway situation was presented to a grand jury. Starting with the Rod Bradway killing and in subsequent, some subsequent ones, we have made the determination that there was no crime, period, clearly, and have not presented to a grand jury. But that would be an option here. We obviously have not made any sort of determination as to whether we will make a decision or whether we'll present the matter to a grand jury.
Any of these black community leaders been given a chance to see the video in private, or
No. No and no. There is, number one, no exception under the rules that I recited, our rules of professional conduct, that would make an exception that some limited individuals could see information that's not otherwise in the public record. Secondly, I think that would just be a bad precedent to do so, that we somehow carve out exceptions in any given situation.
We live in a video age, Prosecutor Curry. People believe what they see. If a citizen had taken video of this in its entirety had been on TV, what would your stance be then?
Well, clearly, if a member of the public had taken that and provided it to the public, provided it to the press, then we have no control over that if that occurs. I can assure you that in situations, if we were aware of that, we would request that person not to release it. We couldn't make them comply with that request, but we would request that they not do so for precisely the reasons that I just said, and that is we don't want limited information being released until we're able to make the officers complete their investigation and we can make a determination. Because let me give you this example. If any of the individuals or anyone in the public who believes that this sort of information should be released to the public, if they had a family member who was a suspect in a criminal investigation, can you imagine their reaction if there was video that we then released to say, look what this person has done? I mean, clearly the fundamental consideration is not to prejudice the rights of anyone who might be involved in one of these situations.
Yes, Chief, some questions at the floor?
Certainly.
Chief, obviously with the ministers and part of your campaign being transparency. What is your reaction to this, knowing that the video will not be released and the mayor is asking for it to be released?
Well, let me go back and say a couple of things. In the first 90 days of being chief, we've addressed all of this head on, knowing that we would have a day that this would come where there'd be questions about video. We have a night chief who was there. That worked. The night chief gave an update within 2 hours. IMPD released information about this altercation and that the individual was not armed. That was a precedent that we set, and we said we would be honest and transparent. Can't get much more transparent than that in the first 2 hours. Within 24 hours, we gave another update regarding the information we had, confirming that there was a video, confirming some of the general issues on the video and what was seen, and more importantly, what was not seen. Once again, our night chief did that. We had a national forum to talk about the issues regarding community policing, and we asked a lot of ministers to attend. Some did, some didn't. We were very grateful for the ones that did. We had a Chief for a Day program with ministers. We've talked about this numerous times. We've talked about it with you in the media as well. We understand this process. We said that when there is an incident, that there's going to be some consternation if we have a video, but I made that promise my first day. I believe I got asked that question. I made my promise at the national forum we had. I made that promise to the clergy. The citizens of this community will see the video once the criminal case has been finalized. I have given my word numerous times, and I will keep my word. We will look at the policies and procedures. If they were followed correctly within IMPD, that's our responsibility. Our responsibility, mine to the citizens and to our troops, is to get to the truth. And we will get to the truth, but it takes time. What we're asking for is what I've asked for in the past. Just some patience. I understand the need for this, but we have a potential criminal case that's being looked at now, and then when that's finalized, that we'll certainly look at policies and procedures.
What's the name of the officer?
We'll get that to you later. I'll talk. I want to make sure of a couple of things, that there's no current threats on the officer, that the officer's family is safe. That's my responsibility as chief, and look into the decision on why that wasn't released earlier. I was out of town at the time. I'm back in town. We've been having that conversation, so we'll have more of that later on today.
And so are you expecting releasing his name later on today then?
I'm expecting to release it sometime this week, yes.
Yeah, will you have a conversation with the officers and let them know that his name is going to be out there in the public?
We will notify the officer, and we'll notify the Fraternal Order of Police of any indication that's something that we need to do to make sure the officer knows as well as the membership. But I will tell you that it's something that we have to look at, and we have to make sure that the public understands completely what's going on all assets or all aspects of this case, and we'll do that, and we've been open from the beginning.
Is there any particular reason why his name hasn't been released yet? In previous shootings of this nature, it's been much less time before IMPD released the name, so is there anything different?
Right, that's the question I had. Now remember, I was out of town when this occurred. I was kind of orchestrating, making sure we released information immediately. I want to know what that decision was at that point. There are some concerns of some violence towards that family. I want to make sure that those legitimate concerns, we need to look at that, but we'll certainly have a responsibility to release that, and we will.
Have the ministers received a private briefing with the same subject information you guys gave us here today?
There have been some ministers, a handful that have called. I have made myself available to any group or any minister group that would like for me to come and attend. We do have a meeting on the 20th that we called before the shooting of a group of clergy to come to the Regional Operations Center, talk about the issues, talk about issues such as this, talk about the things we've done in the first 90 days. We still plan on moving that forward, and I've been told that some of the ministers are going to be attending that as well. So we're hopeful, and we'll send that out again as a reminder. It's on the 20th. What's the time frame?
1 o'clock.
1 o'clock on the 20th Regional Operations Center. We will have that, we will make it available to the media for part of the presentation. We have been asked, though, to have a private conversation with some of the ministers towards the end of it.
Do you find it ironic that perhaps your transparency actually feeds them information that maybe they wouldn't have had, so they wouldn't have raised voices or concerns in the past, but it's your transparency by putting things out there that actually gives them the fuel to then raise these concerns? Well,
it is, and I've had some criticism saying, why did you okay the release of so much information early? The reason we did that is we have a responsibility, the police department, to be truthful, and we're going to put that information out. And I would much rather, for the citizens of this community, understand what is going on with the investigation, what happened, hear that from their police department. I think long term that instills trust. It's the way we're going to operate with IMPD, and we can never be afraid of the truth. And we have to get the truth out there no matter what it is.
So your last week described in pretty substantial detail what was being shown on this video. Today, of course, we've heard this in the past, that evidence in cases are not released by the prosecutor's office. So, I guess, where do you draw the line in terms of releasing information or talking about information that is contained within evidence versus not releasing information in order to not compromise the integrity of the investigation?
Right, and that's very difficult, Jill, and it's something that we look at and balance that in each case. This is new. I mean, having so many videos across this nation that's being shown, having the opportunity with body cameras in the future, how are we going to navigate this? This is new. We have to continue to use best practices. In this case, we made this decision based on some of the erroneous information that was out there, making sure that public, if they're going to form opinions, to ask for their patience and time to ensure that we're being open and transparent and, most of all, truthful. If we ever give information out that's incorrect, we're going to certainly try to tell people why that information was given. In this case, there was some incorrect information immediately given, where it said that the officer they thought was dispatched ended up the officer was not dispatched. We wanted to clarify that. So that's something that we deal with every day. We never want to hinder the prosecution of a case or a review of a case, but I can tell you that I'm appreciative of Mr. Curry having this opportunity today to explain this process once again. We will have situations in the future not only involving police officers, but involving maybe two suspects that's caught on video that people are going to want to see. We have to protect the integrity of these cases.
What is the current condition of the officer? Did he have a broken hand? Did he have a concussion?
We will get you an update later on today. I'm waiting for an update from the last doctor's appointment, but at the end of the day, that's the officer's call if he wants that information released or not. That's his private health-related information. That'll be his call.
Has he been interviewed by police and prosecutors?
I'm not at liberty to talk about any of that. It's regarding the case, and that's in the prosecutor's court right now. I can tell you that once the criminal case is finalized, he will certainly be interviewed by IMPD in the administrative side.
Given the fervor and the reaction from the public in the past and several other cities that have faced deadly police shootings, what some might consider negative reaction, rioting, what have you, especially here in the Midwest. How is your department how has this kind of molded your stance today here in addressing this issue?
Well, our stance had already been molded before this incident by talking to the community before this occurred, by making sure that people understood the process, by having a national forum to talk about these very issues here in the city of Indianapolis. We want to continue to have that open dialogue. We have asked clergy to do ride-alongs with our police officers, and some have already done that. We have asked clergy to participate in a Chief for a Day program where they understand the legal processes, they understand the process that we've implemented to investigate shootings. They understand the shoot-don't shoot scenario, and going through that they have a better understanding. And I've told clergy that are willing that if they want to be involved at a greater level, they can certainly be involved at a greater level, and we'll be making that ask and that request on the 20th when we meet with clergy.
Thank you.